when we make the wrong decision, we don't engage people, we don't listen to them, we make people's life miserable. They feel like not valued. As a leader, you have always to be hungry to learn more. Develop your confidence early on. And the only way you develop your confidence is by experimenting a lot. And my first question to my mom was, everybody dies at the end? Mm-hmm. And she's like, yes. Mm-hmm. And I said, so what's the point of going to school if at the end we're going to die?
Great point, I have to say. I'm swayed. Today, I'm delighted to introduce our guest, Chihab Kaab. He is a coach and consultant that helps CEOs and executives turn misaligned teams into cohesive ones that collaborate and deliver results. He is also the founder of Seeds of Leadership, a 3-year leadership development program made for Muslim youth that focuses on creating the next generation of positive disruptors and changemakers. He's been a mentor of mine and an inspiration to many others. With that, let's dive right into the show. All right, it's wonderful to have you here today. Inshallah, we can just jump right into it. So I wanted to ask you a little bit about your upbringing. What was it like being like a young brother, Chihab? Are there any experiences that really shaped you into who you are today?
I can tell you some things that were memorable, and then maybe something that come up that has shaped, because I've never had a chance to really trace everything.
Right.
But what's most memorable for me is that I went to school first time in grade 1.
Okay.
So there was no school prior to that.
Mm-hmm.
My dad was in the army, and so we were traveling, we were moving around in cities everywhere. And so I grew up more at home with my mom, and I loved that, I enjoyed it. Yeah. And so grade 1 was a shock for me. Mm-hmm. Going to school for the first time and realizing that you can't just talk whenever you want to talk. You're supposed to raise your hand. You're supposed to follow a certain structure, and it shocked me.
Right.
And I got home, and I was prepared all my argument about why I should not go back to school to run one. And a part of that argument was, it was like deep, very deep. You ready for that?
Yeah.
Okay, so the argument was, my first question to my mom was, everybody dies at the end? Mm-hmm. And she's like, yes. Mm-hmm. And I said, so what's the point of going to school if at the end we're going to die?
Great point, I have to say. I'm swayed.
So that was my first experience, childhood experience, and how it influenced in actually a lot of my work. I don't like too much structure. I don't like too much rigidity. I find that it takes away from creativity. It takes away from the uniqueness of individuals. And that was probably first experience what I have seen that.
Right.
So probably that would be a good example.
Perfect. Amazing. I also heard a little bit about you had a pet goat. Also, when you were
where did you hear about that?
Oh, through the grapevine.
Oh, wow.
Oh yeah, got some secret information.
It wasn't mine. It was my sister's. But yes, we did have a pet goat. We had actually 2.
Yeah.
We had a first one. So we traveled South Morocco, and in our travel, we came across like a baby goat, and I think it's called a kid.
Yeah.
And we adopted it. Brought it home, and we were feeding it like milk and everything, and we really got very attached. I think the first one was, the name of the goat was Yasmin, and then the second one was Bahad.
Right.
And we would at some point you would call you like Bahad, and then they would respond back to you.
Mm-hmm. Basically. Yeah, that's lovely. Okay, so it's nice to get that kind of context, because eventually you went on to go into university and you decided to study engineering, which is kind of surprising when I first met you. Why did you decide to go into engineering?
I always say it was by mistake. So I grew up in an environment where if you did well, you go to science.
Right.
If you did well in science, you specialize in maths. And then once you specialize in math, then after that you had 2 paths.
Right.
Medicine or engineering. Medicine was, at least in Morocco, was very known to require a lot of memorization.
Right.
And I did not enjoy that. That was not for me. So by elimination, I ended up in engineering. And then even in engineering, when I got into university, I just went by elimination to figure out what was left at the end, which was industrial engineering, and that's what I picked.
Right.
But I would say I was not awake during this whole period. I was an autopilot for the whole period of time. And I even worked in industry for maybe a good 12 years. And then I realized this is not it.
Right.
I don't enjoy this. I was good at it, but I didn't enjoy it.
Right.
And sometimes that's we overlap those 2 concepts.
Right.
And we think they're the same. I can be good at something and people will praise me and will tell me great things about it, but it doesn't give me fulfillment.
Right.
Versus I can go into an area that I'm really very passionate about. It connects with me, connects with my values, connects with what's important for me. I might not be the best at it at that point, but I can grow up in that area.
Right.
I always prefer the second one, but it took me a while before I got there.
Amazing. Okay, and actually that segues into the next question, which is you were doing engineering for a long time, like you said, 12 years, and you make this sudden change to becoming a coach and a consultant. Where did that come from?
So reflection, and also I think we have to be open to the opportunities that come to us. You know about the concept of the red car concept? So
No.
if you decide to buy a red car, all of a sudden you're going to notice so many red cars.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Okay.
Prior to that, you don't notice anything. It's not that all of a sudden now they exist, but they were there. We just were not paying attention to them. Right. Same thing. When we decide to go and focus on certain areas, we're going to find more opportunities in these areas. So after working for 12 years, and I was feeling that I was not enjoying it. I didn't get a sense of purpose. The organizations I was working with, nice people, learned a lot from them, but just didn't connect with me. Like I always was feeling there was something missing. I changed a lot. Like I've changed jobs every 3 years and positions probably every year and a half.
Right.
Which is signal that I'm looking for something. And then at some point when it got to that level where I was like, just this is not enough for me, I decided to take a break. So my wife and I took 6-week vacation. That was the longest we've ever had. And then we went to Medina, and then we had a chance to just sit down and reflect and trying to focus on what is it we want to be doing.
Right.
And I came back from there, decided that I was going to focus on 2 potential areas, either education or healthcare. Both areas because I was very interested in the impact.
Right.
And I was seeing a lot of changes happening, and they really, like the opportunities were really very, very big there. So that's what I did. Came back to my job, continuing to where I'm doing. And then a friend of mine, somebody that I met only once before, sends me a message and asks me if I'm interested in joining his new startup consultant firm that's going to be focused on healthcare out of the blue, because he wasn't in that sector. I was not in that sector, but that's what they were start. And that's how it started.
That's amazing. It's because when you were in Morocco and you're deciding, either engineering or become a doctor, you ended up going to medical care anyway.
I never thought about that. It's very interesting. I never thought about it that way at all.
Yeah. So you're doing healthcare for a while, and then you decided, I also want to help youth, and you started Seeds of Leadership. What brought you to that decision?
So healthcare, I'm still doing it.
Yeah,
I'm still in that field. Like I do it. I do other areas as well, but still, I love that sector. I love the people there. I love what they do. It's a hard place to be in, but then if I can contribute, I would love to do that. So I'm still doing that. In parallel with that, so this whole quest to trying to find purpose and find meaning was still continuing going through my head. So yes, I'm doing that at work, but what's happening in the community? What are the needs in the community?
Right.
Because there was a quote at some point that I've heard during that period where I was reflecting. The quote was, I always thought that somebody should do something about it until I realize I am somebody. And that was like a wake-up call for me.
Right.
Like instead of complaining, instead of waiting for others to do something about it, look at a gap, fill that gap. That was my focus.
Right.
So I did that professionally in the healthcare sector. That was the idea that I had in mind. But then outside of that, I started getting more involved within the community. I started getting more involved with the youth. And I started noticing that no opportunities are given to the youth. There's no succession planning in the community. You have few people who, may Allah bless them, they've done great work in starting organizations, in building centers and all of those things. They were getting old. They were stretched thin. And when I looked at the pipeline, it was empty. So who's coming?
Right.
Not only that, but also it was a bit of like a vicious cycle. So they were doing the best that they can. There was nobody else willing to take over. And people were complaining, why are you still stuck in those positions? Why are you not passing on to others? Well, there was nobody else to give it to.
Right.
So my thought was, well, let's address that. If that's the case, then let's build a pipeline. And if you want to build a pipeline, you start early enough.
Right.
That's how the idea of Seeds of Leadership came, which is how can we build that pipeline very early on so we can have youth that are ready to take care of the community and society in general.
Amazing. And so for those that aren't familiar with Seeds of Leadership, what exactly is Seeds? Can you give us some examples of projects that stand out to you, as well as what are some achievements from Seeds that you're really proud of?
I'm going to start first by talking about the logo of Seeds, because I think that explains a little bit the idea. It took us a while when we were thinking about it. So there's one type of bamboo tree in Asia that for about 5 years, you plant the seeds and you keep watering and feeding it and everything, and nothing comes out from earth. Like you don't see anything.
Right.
And after about 5 years, it will shoot up about 60 feet in a matter of weeks. And for me, that was a beautiful metaphor, because if we were to invest in the youth, that's what we're looking for. It's going to take time. We should not be in a rush to try to see results very quickly.
Right.
But we keep building, and then the fruit is going to come later. So that's the idea of Seeds of Leadership.
Yeah.
Now, alhamdulillah, like even though it's been only 4 years now, we've already have seen great development of the youth, especially those that are committed and who have put the time, put the energy in their development. So your question about what are some examples of those, I would say the first one is this one.
Oh, yeah, sure, yeah.
So I remember you passionate about media, about photography, about storytelling. I remember you being part of the summit, I think last year's summit at the Tim Hortons camp, and you won first place with your idea of Ihsan Media. I know you were thinking about it before, but that was like the combination. And then from there, you take it off. So we're excited to see something like that. Not that we've created the idea was there. You had everything. For us, it's just to be a bit of that catalyst.
Absolutely, yeah.
So that's one example. Other examples, we have teams that now have just incorporated their organizations for supporting youth to learn the skill of debate. So they've been running for about 1.5 years, but that's quite amazing to see something like that. Hijabi Talks will be another one. I'm still so proud of Hajar and what she has done. I remember in the first retreat, she came to me and she's like, I have this idea and I want to do it, but I'm not too sure. There was a bit of self-confidence issue, and then we pushed her just a little bit, and now it's been over 3 years. He impacted so many youth in our community to feel confident with their own identity. So those are examples of what the youth are doing. But again, like I want to clarify, we don't expect a lot of results from the project that the youth are doing now.
Right.
Because for us, we want them to make mistakes, or to try, have a wrong partner and learn from it, set up an organization and realize that that's not addressing the right problem, having a team and having conflict within the team, but learning through all of these experiences. That's the most important thing for us.
Amazing. And what are some achievements that Seeds has made in the past 4 years that you're really proud of?
Well, first, we're still alive.
Yeah, of course.
That's a big achievement. Our worry was like, how are we going to keep up with this? So that's one. The best achievement. So we have indicators that we use. Every 6 months, we ask the youth to do a self-assessment. And those indicators have got to do with their leadership abilities, their desire to have an impact in the community, their sense of belonging, their sense of agency. So we have, I think, 7 indicators. And both, I think, because of the selection that we have, but also the development that we've been creating, we've seen quite an impressive results in terms of the leadership. The confidence in the leadership abilities of the youth is in the 80s, 90s%. So that's quite high compared to what you would see in most of the youth. The connection that they have built. Actually, for me, that was a really very important one. Majority of the seed leads now, they have changed their friend group.
Absolutely.
And for me, that's important.
Yeah.
Because the people you surround yourself with are either going to lift you up or they're going to bring you down. And if you truly want to be that change maker and positive disruptor, which the goal of what we're trying to do here in Seeds, you have to surround yourself with people like that. So the youth started at first having their own friends, and then at some point they realized, well, not everybody is there to develop themselves. So now we're going to have to pick and choose some of this youth. And I think that's a big thing for us in terms of success.
Amazing. And where do you hope Seeds will be in 10 years' time? Hard one, yeah.
Question. That's a tough question. The hope, and because I have to remind ourselves, the last 4 years have been amazing in terms of learning for us as an organization.
Yes.
We've been changing the program, changing the structure, raising the standards, changing the curriculum. So there's a lot of learning that we've had. We've had a lot of requests to try and spread the program wider, and we've resisted that temptation because we want quality over quantity. But 10 years from now, two things that I'm hoping we're going to see. So number one, the program will be running Canada-wide.
Right.
I don't know how, but inshallah will be Canada-wide. Right. That's important. And the reason for this is we're looking for those top 2% youth who truly want to have an impact in society and want to lead that impact. That's what I'm talking about, 2%. Right. We have a lot of great youth that are going to support change, but there will be only a few that we're going to make it. And we have to throw the net wide to find them. So that would be one. Wide across geographically, but also wide in terms of diversity.
Right.
Our group is not diverse enough, and we want to really do more outreach.
Right.
So that would be one part. Number two, which maybe is the most important part, is 10 years from now, I'm hoping we have a few hundreds of youth across the country that are like-minded. They're very committed to creating a change within the society, and they're able to leverage each other to make that change.
Right.
That for me would be success.
Amazing.
Because I see a lot of communities where you have islands of excellence, but you don't have a network of excellence. And that's what we want.
Beautiful. In your experience, what are the most common barriers that youth experience, and how do you overcome those?
Like in general youth, what their experience?
Like seed leads, for example.
Oh, seed leads.
Yes.
Sorry, okay. So for seed leads, I'd say the barriers, one of them is definitely the confidence. Mashallah, the youth have amazing capabilities, especially the seed leads that we have in our program. But sometimes they don't believe that they have it. And so that's one barrier. And it's internal. And we're trying to work with them to try to challenge that. That's why our big focus on growth mindset has been a learning for us for the 4 years. We didn't start with that at the beginning. We added it later on. So that's like a big one. Number two is the opportunities. Like, unfortunately, I'm still disappointed from a lot of organizations that we reach out to trying to do work with them. And their focus is more about how am I going to benefit as an organization versus how am I going to support the youth.
Right.
Because if we don't give the youth a chance and we don't give them opportunities for them to fail and make mistakes, how are they going to develop? And that has been the issue that we've been seeing. So that's the second barrier that we see. And then the third one is a lack of mentors.
Right.
We try and find a lot of mentors that are going to connect them with the individual, but we still don't have enough. And what I mean by that, not a person who just comes in and then gives you one advice and then they feel good about it and then they leave and then they're done, their job is done. No, like development takes time and it requires a person to meet with you quite often. It requires an investment from you as a mentor to support those youth. And that's still a gap that we don't have. Those are probably the three things.
Right. Okay. If you could recommend one book or movie to emerging leaders, what would they be and why?
I've been recommending this everywhere I go right now, is The Courage to be Disliked. I just love that book. It actually, the whole book is a discussion between a mentor and a youth. And the whole concept behind that is you don't always control the reactions of individuals. So don't get into that mindset of want to please in everybody. and preventing yourself from doing different things, engaging yourself, developing yourself, and so on. So I love that book, and I would recommend it everywhere, not only for youth, for my clients as well.
Sure.
And actually, on LinkedIn, I think that's the post that had got the most reaction and impression was that book.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
What about a movie? Any movie that comes to mind?
Harder one. That's a hard one. A movie.
I know when you watch movies, you put on like 2x speed, right?
So the only reason I do watch movies is I want to. So when I decided I'm going to have to work with the youth, I want to stay relevant.
Yes.
So there's no way I'm going to stay relevant without knowing what they are paid attention to. So actually, I don't. Usually I watch trailers.
Right.
Because that's much easier for me.
Yeah, they spoil the entire thing for you.
I'll see the trailer, I'm like, oh, I get it. And then maybe I'll just like search somewhere, like, okay, so what was the end and what did they do? And then I have a good idea. So that way if people are talking about whatever happens, I'm relevant. So that's the ones. It's hard, like to advise somebody for a movie. Wow, that's a hard one.
Yeah.
That's a hard one. I'm going to take a pass on this.
Take a pass, for sure, yeah. I had a feeling. All right. If you could have a leadership rule book, what would the first 3 rules be?
Rule book?
Yes. So rule book for leaders, what are the first 3 rules?
You know, I've been thinking about writing a book for a long time. It's like a hope, and hope that it's going to happen by itself, because I don't like writing.
Right, yeah.
And I already knew what the book is going to be about. And the book is going to be about this whole idea of you don't have the right to make other person's life miserable, which I see very often leaders do it. Right. In the moment you become a leader, there's a risk for you feeling that you know better and wanting to make decisions by yourself, and you don't realize the implication that you have on others. And so I see, like a lot of organizations I've been working with, I see people miserable in their jobs.
Right.
And when I look at it, where it's coming from, it always comes back to the leadership.
Right.
That's why it's kind of interesting, because my work, when I started, I didn't start working with senior leaders.
Right.
I started as an engineer. I worked with equipment. I worked with processes. Then I shifted into coaching. I was doing coaching with teams. I was doing improvement coaching. And then as I was going through it, I'm like, oh, that's not the root cause. Oh, the root cause, the issue is there isn't a plan. So I work with them, develop a plan. Okay, oh, but they don't have a strategy. Okay, so I'm going to work on strategy. Oh, we don't have the right senior team that is building the strategy. So I kept going back until I decided to focus on that group, because I have seen the impact that it has.
Right.
When we make the wrong decision, we don't engage people, we don't listen to them, we make people's life miserable. They feel like not valued. So that would be my first rule book.
Right.
Like, first one is don't make the life of others miserable just because you're a leader. So that's the first one. The second one is learn, don't stop learning. There's a beautiful book called What Got You Here Won't Get You There. And I think there's the title in itself is enough.
Yeah.
As a leader, you have always to be hungry to learn more, and don't stop. So that would be rule number 2. And then rule number 3 is be humble.
Be humble.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And so just kind of adding on to that, what are some common misconceptions that people have about leadership, and how would you overcome those?
I think the first one is that everybody can be a leader. I think this is dangerous. Right? It's very dangerous. We are in a society right now, and I hope we're going to start seeing a change, a society that everybody is a winner, everybody gets a medal, everybody gets a trophy, everybody is a leader.
Right.
I don't think, like, yes, you can try and be a leader, but you're not going to be a good leader. And we need good leaders, great leaders.
Right.
So if that you have that potential, develop yourself. But if you don't have, find your niche. It doesn't have to be within leadership. Right. So that's the first misconception, is like, oh yeah, everybody could be a leader. I don't think so. I think that it requires certain passion for people for you to be a leader.
Right.
You could be a visionary in terms of technically, and you can give ideas and so on, but you're not leading a team. So that's I think one misconception. The second one is especially in North America, is you have to be loud and you have to be an extrovert,
right,
to be a leader. And I'm hoping people are starting to notice that that's not the case. Like, you can be a leader in any style that you have. In the book, it's quite a long time now that was written, the Good to Great, they talk about the 5 levels of leadership, and level 5 requires you two things. One is humility and a strong will. And then they define them. Most of them are actually more a bit of like introvert type of individuals. They're not necessarily extrovert. So that's the other misconception. So those are two probably. Yeah.
Amazing. Now, given your 15 plus years of coaching experience, what advice would you give to your younger self? It's a hard one.
No, actually. So I think the biggest one would be stop learning early. And not just learning in one area, like open up your mind to explore many things. So for a number of years, high school, university, I was just focused on the technical aspects and what can I learn about it? How can I be great at math? And how can I be like all those things? And I really discounted all the human interaction and the emotional intelligence piece. I think it would have served me much more to it. So that's number one. And then the second one is develop your confidence early on. And the only way you develop your confidence is by experimenting a lot.
Right.
Try new things, fail, learn, stand up, fall, stand up again, fall, stand up again. That's going to build that anti-fragility. And then you build yourself as an individual and you build your confidence. I think those would be definitely advice I would give myself.
Now, before we bring the interview to an end, I want to ask, what's next for you?
Yeah, good question. A couple of things. One, Seeds is still at the infancy, so still has got to grow, but I'm hoping that we will have youth from within the program, so cohort 1, cohort 2, maybe cohort 3 very soon, inshallah, that will take over and then take it to the next level. So that will be one. I'm very interested in young professionals because that's the next group that we have to support and we have to help them grow. We did an attempt, and actually you were part of one of the projects that we had an attempt. Did not go as we wanted it to go, but I think there's still the potential is there that we could evolve. So I'm hoping to find something in that area where we can provide some value to the community in the young professionals. And then the third one, which I started recently, is like now I'm starting to think about how can I expand a bit more the leadership development that I've been doing professionally a bit more. So I'm starting to build new courses and I'm trying to do them in a unique way. Like there's one course I'm thinking about where I want to focus just on behaviors. You know how sometimes you go to a training or a program and there's like 70% fluff?
Yeah.
Like I heard it, I've seen it, I don't need, and it's 30%. It's like, okay, that was really good. So I'm trying to build a program with 90% be the juicy part that leaders really need to know to focus on. And mainly related to behaviors. So those are some of the ideas that I'm hoping to work on.
Amazing. And I also heard that you were thinking of becoming a volunteer fireman.
Oh, I've tried. They didn't get that to me. I've been trying actually for how long now? I think it's been 2 years I've been trying. So the problem is the station that is close to my house doesn't seem to be doing much recruitment.
Right.
And then I tried one that is a bit further, but there's always that requirement you have to be like 7 minutes away from it. Like I'm so in awe about this type of work that they do. I love it, and I would love to contribute. So I'm going to try again.
Absolutely. I was kind of surprised when I heard that. What made you want to become a volunteer fireman?
Good question. I'm trying to remember what was the trigger for that one. Like I'm always interested in doing something where I can see the impact. And everything I'm doing in my life, I want to see impact short-term, mid-term, long-term. So I want to mix. Because if you only do things about long-term, at some point your motivation, you have difficulty with that. So Seeds for me is like a long-term. We're going to do it, and it's going to take us a bit of a while to go there. And then I do a bit of work within the community. I do coaching with different organizations. So that's more, I would say, mid-term. But I want to do something that is much closer. And I found the firefighting one would be one of those where it's much short term. You can see the impact. It runs with volunteers, so we do have to contribute. Like again, back to my quote about I always knew, I always thought that somebody should do something about it, and until I realized that I'm one of those somebody.
Right.
So for me, like, how can I contribute to that?
Amazing. So I just want to say thank you so much for your time. It was amazing having you here. I'm going to say some nice stuff. I'm going to keep it really short because I know you don't really like that. So I know you've been a mentor to me and a lot of other people at Seeds. So say thank you for all your work. I'll end it right there.
Yeah, pleasure.
All right,
thank you.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.